All right, what's up? We're going to do, this is Angie, by the way. We're going to do Bible study today, page 367 of the Nag Hammadi, or Nag Hammadi for you weirdos out there, in my opinion. Because to me it's a nag to do this, but I don't mind. So anyways, it's the topic is thunder. Source speaks through thunder. So I wrote source here. The beginning part is just like a intro, and the second part's like a kind of like a poem. Okay. So I'm gonna do the intro just to get some context, and I do know the answer to all these questions, but I make myself forget with selective amnesia, because there's a lot of things we don't know the answers to. So by forgetting it and relearning it, remembering it, what helps me is think maybe something I hadn't thought before. So if it comes back up again, okay, but if I get something new, that would be cool. All right, the tractate entitled Thunder or Thunder, Perfect Mind is a kind of anomaly in the Nag Hammadi library. It belongs to none of the literary genres attested in the collection. It features no known Gnostic entity, and it has neither a narrative nor a didactic frame. And I really make myself forget stuff, huh? The Nag Hammadi text it resembles most closely are three forms of first thought. So that's XIII, which would be 13, yeah? 3 forms of first thought. So wouldn't that be 13 forms of first thought? And the hymn of the Savior, forethought or pronoia. Pronoia. Don't help me with words, humans. At the end of the longer version of the secret book of John. Because we read the secret book of John, right? I think we did. Thunder takes the form of a discourse composed for the most part of self-predications in the first person singular. By the way, when I said humans, I was talking about the office people. They're channeling y'all, so just so you know. Or otherwise, I wouldn't have the information that I need from a human level. But I'm telling them, shut up, your thoughts, because I could hear them. By them saying them out loud, basically. It's annoying. You think so loudly? Yeah. All right. Interspersed with exhortations and reproaches addressed to an unidentified audience. The speaker remains unnamed, but many features in the text show the person or entity speaking as a feminine being. This characteristic explains why the tractate was at first compared with the Isis artologies, the self-proclamations in which the goddess Isis presents herself and lists her feats, or with the public addresses of female wisdom in the Jewish scriptures. Proverbs something and then Sirach, S-I-R-A-C-H. But these parallels remain only partial. The genre of thunder is rather to be defined according to the opening statement of the speaker. I was sent from the power, and have come to those who contemplate me, and am found among those who seek me. These lines evoke the kind of discourse by which in ancient societies an envoy or ambassador would introduce himself, name his sender, and state his qualifications and status. The Gospel of John provides a good example of such declarations. Despite the absence of a clear literary structure, the text does show some kind of organization. It opens with a prologue in which the speaker identifies herself and invites her listeners or readers to be attentive to her message, and it closes with the final exhortation to hear and learn her words in order to live and not die again. In between, the text is made up of sections more or less organized, of which the most striking feature is the constant use of contradictory statements. The feminine entity who speaks throughout Thunder presents herself as the first and the last, the only one who exists, and has no one to judge her. She transcends and abolishes all kinds of relations. Some people are having a problem with what I'm saying right now. And I didn't even say anything, I'm just reading something. Interesting. She transcends and abolishes all kinds of relationships and dependencies, whether familiar, spousal, or domestic. She declares, I am the mother and the daughter, I am the limbs of my mother. I am the mother of my father and the sister of my husband, and he is my offspring. Furthermore, the speaker claims two modes of existence characterized by paradox and contradiction. She simultaneously honored and scorned, whore and holy, despised and professed, foolish and wise. Sounds similar? Sounds similar? Familiar, yeah. Even if the female speaker of thunder calls for universal acceptance, being the wisdom of the Greeks and the knowledge of the barbarians, the judgment of the Greeks and barbarians, she has nevertheless a precise ethnic identity. She is a barbarian among barbarians. The opposition of Greek and barbarian was well known and used in antiquity, usually in a polemical way. Polemical, I would assume, is a polar way. Couldn't you just say that? Here the claim by the speaker to be a barbarian is given a rather positive value. Yeah, like, I'm from the streets level of I grew up poor level of, all those kind of things. Like, I came from nothing and I built my way up. I clawed my way up level. All those things. Yeah. Though she is the one whose image is great in Egypt and who has no image among the barbarians, called deaf and lawless, godless and uneducated, that is, deprived of the Greek paideia, whatever that is, she is in reality life and law, and people learn from her, and the many gods of the Greeks manifest her presence. All those contradictory statements are best explained if we hypothesize that the reference to the barbarians is a cryptic designation of the Jews, and the female speaker is the tractate is a metamorphosis of the Jewish wisdom, or Sophia. Sure, maybe the second go around or something, yeah? They can't think future, can they? They can't think how this might happen even again from here. We don't want it to, but it could, and then we have to do this again, and all that. So in every era there is this. Who is this in every era? Does it even matter? We know where we are now. Let's keep going. Like wisdom, the speaker of thunder is a feminine figure who delivers a first-person speech composed of predications. Predictions, interesting. We might have some predictions here. And powerful statements. Can you stop messing with stuff, kitty? Jeez. And these must be received and heard. Just like Sophia, the speaker resembles a divine entity, second only to the first principle, to which she alone provides access. But at the same time, she exhibits features that the biblical wisdom tradition attributes to the opposite of Sophia. Folly, the foolish woman, is depicted as a courtesan and a prostitute. Although biblical wisdom gives intelligence and knowledge to the simple, the heroine of our tractate, though providing learning, declares herself uneducated. Because, she's channeling the learning, but she's uneducated. Can you get down, kitty? God. Such a contradictory statement. And there are many orders in the tractate. Like, basically, I know nothing, but I'm channeling it. Something like. It's best explained if the speaker is seen as a drastic reinterpretation of Jewish wisdom. But there are in the biblical sapiential tradition elements that anticipate the paradoxical portrait of the speaker. Wisdom knows how to walk on tortuous paths and to torment her listeners by her discipline in order to test them. She dwells in the highest heavens and at the same time walks the human race. But it says walks with the human race. No, she's walking the human race. She's taking them on a walkabout. Therefore, the speaker of thunder is a universalistic, yeah. Sometimes I just mess up shit. Radicalization of biblical wisdom, of which the best illustration, but it says illustration. Yeah. Oh, got it. Illustration. But isn't that interesting how that's in there? Yeah. Is perhaps the Simonian wisdom of the pseudo-Clementines, an all-bearing being, for whose sake the Greeks and barbarians fought, having before their eyes but an image of truth. So sometimes when I mess up a word, it could be because somebody who's reading it live with me on the same page, literal, has the same copy. is thinking so loud about how to pronounce it properly that I don't get to pronounce it. And so when I said illustration, and they're like, no, it's illustration, but you're seeing it wrong. And I said, oh yeah, but interesting. Oh yeah, it is interesting. Why am I having like a back and forth dialogue with a human when I'm trying to channel higher wisdom even than myself? If you want to do this, then why aren't you? So then how about you close it and listen instead of following along, because you're supposed to be listening, not like interpreting it with me. If you wanted to have read it prior to, did you? No. So I did. And then I dumbed myself down so that I could speak it. But now I'm getting confused by a human trying to correct my pronunciation. Not just that, but then trying to correct that I am defending my ill pronunciation by then agreeing that it's interesting how it's written in the book. I don't need all that. Now I'm spending a lot of time talking to you. Please close it and actually go away completely. You're not offering me anything because you've not studied for this. You did not channel anything. You're not here with me live to have done such, and all of the things such as. Appreciate it. Thank you. Go do something else. It's Sunday. Go do the Lord's Sabbath or some shit. The universalism of the tractate evokes also Plutarch's ideal, Plutarch, who declares that the gods are not to be regarded as different among different peoples, nor as barbarian and Greek, and as southerner and northern, Isis and Osiris. Not to be. Even though thunder is indebted to the Jewish wisdom tradition, there are indications in the text that suggest other backgrounds, either Gnostic, Isic, or philosophical. First, there's a section of the tractate. Some people are bored about this. Go away. Why are you even here? I'll wait. They want me to just hurry up. I could tell you the next part's actually way more boring. We're getting more out of this than we will about the text. Thank you. They're like, God, get me out of here. Yeah, exactly. Get out of here. No, really. This is so boring they want to go get out of here. Yeah. They're like, fuck this. I don't want to be on this one. Seriously. Energetic-wise. I am the wife. Isn't that great, actually? No, that doesn't count. They don't know how life works. They literally are just trying to avoid life. Yeah. That's why it's funny. But I'm saying that's how bad they hate it. Right. Okay. I am the wife and the virgin. And whatever he wishes happens to me. Listen, I am the wife and the virgin. And whatever he wishes happens to me. That has clear parallels in two Nag Hammadi tractates on the origin of the world and the nature of the rulers. Those parallels are so close that we are compelled to suppose that one tractate is dependent upon the others, or that the three of them draw from a common source. In On the Origin of the World and the Nature of the Rulers, the parallel passages are introduced as a quotation. See, I'm channeling in and we're taking notes of the discrepancies. When I say nag and not nag, and somebody tries to correct it every time, it's really annoying because it's coming through as nag. But we'll change it to nag if you really want. Well, then stop doing it. It's like saying pardon after somebody sneezes, you know? So, anyways. Yeah, sneezes. A lot of nosy people today. So I lost my spot due to such. It's all good. In Thunder, which is this one, of course, there is no formal indication of a citation, but the vocabulary of these lines indicates that they were borrowed from somewhere else and introduced into the tractate, probably because they're stylistic, similarity to the rest of the writing. Consequently, it cannot be argued on the basis of this common stock that Thunder maintains the same Gnostic perspective as the two other tractates. Nevertheless, our tractate shows oblivious parallel with Gnostic texts or doctrines that suggest it could have been composed in a milieu familiar with Gnostic ideas. Let me explain something. We have a version of this from Angi, past, this Angi, but in the future we have. Our future is your never has existed yet. It's a redo. So mine's written up. And so when I say something different, we make a slight note as to if I say other two or two other, just because it could be such. The first time I read it, I might have pronounced every word right, never had an issue, said nag and everything. But now, when I'm saying nag, it's telling me this is a Mandela. In that it's a redo means we're Mandela'd. Something didn't work or didn't go right or something. Therefore, good luck. If you keep trying to do that, you need to really, really think outside the box here. That we didn't go back to November 1st, we're pushing through. But at any time, we could have to go back to November 1st, and you wouldn't even know. How far did we get in the future before we had to go back and redo this? Or is it just a straight up redo? We hope that. I don't want to have to go back and do any big Mandelas anymore. It was a pain in the ass to do the 2015 one. And we've done small ones, those are fine, but the big ass ones, to go back to November 1st with all this that we've done, Angi's book would be written up and not remember having done it. Does that sound familiar? As to why that, yeah. So it's like, have we read this one or not? You're like, yeah. And Angi's like, I don't remember. Maybe Angi's been Mandela'd and you haven't. And I know I introduced myself as Angi, and I am Angi, but I'm Angi 13 level ship, and I'm trying to help y'all out, but I keep getting fucked with. And I know you guys are just humans and you're just trying to help or something, but it's not helpful. But that doesn't mean don't be helpful. It just means be helpful in a selective way, not a grammar Nazi kind of way. Send it in. People don't like keyboard warriors. Don't like gender Nazi. Yeah. Keyboard warriors don't like gender Nazis. You know, the ones that they're so about the respect of the LGBT community, but then they get mad about pronouns. So be gay, but don't be gay like that, or be gay, but don't be that gay. A lot of people are laughing. Yeah, no, but they'll say you should respect their pronouns, but internally and secretly they do not like the pronouns, and neither do we, because it confuses the fuck out of us. But hey, if you really want us to they them you, we will. But I'm just gonna tell you right now, in the future, it's not there. So you guys either decided to stop doing it, or you might want to really fucking be convinced about it, because why would you? Basically, you just call yourselves whatever name you are at the time of the container of which you're occupying. So I would still be a she if I'm in a male body, because I'm still Angi. And then likewise, if a male were occupying this one, they'd be a he, because, yeah. So, like, it's pretty gender fluid, if you will. A lot of people are like, in the future, like, wait, what? You can, what, huh? We'll get there, people. So we'll get there. Maybe not. We did get there. I don't know if we will get there. How about that? You can hold it back if you want. No, wait, no, please don't. Okay. Okay. Shh. Future humans of the collective, I could hear you. Shh. Like, I could hear them out here. Shh. You know what I mean? Okay. Think about it later. Not with me, though. I'm not interested in switching with any of you people. Unless you're a variant, and in that case, we'll talk later. Oh, my God. Okay. So. Yeah. It has also been suggested that thunder could be read in the light of Isis artologies. In fact, thunder shares many features with the artologies, if I'm saying it right or not, I don't know. A feminine persona, the self-predications themselves, and an identical claim to universal recognition. Thunder's speaker is not far from Isis, who in her many forms and names encompasses in herself all gods and goddesses. But there are irreducible differences between thunder and the Isic artologies. They convey only the positive part of thunder's oppositions, whereas the speaker introduces herself as the honored and the scorned, the heart and the holy. The Hellenistic Isis is vocally or vocally, but it came through as vok instead of voc. Invoke and vok. and fuck. Sacred and blameless. Once again, we have a common atmosphere rather than a case of literary dependency. And who's taking my notes? Finally, many elements in thunder point toward a philosophical model. Footnote, self-generating principles in 2nd century Gnostic systems. Man, people have really dug into this stuff. Widely used in the 2nd and 3rd centuries to describe the metaphysical first principles, and especially the second principle seen as a self-generating mind. Like, so self-generating mind would be getting self-aware, I would assume. Getting self-aware. There's more. I am, I think, therefore I am. What am I doing sitting in this classroom? Whom, how, what, where, when level? The present tractate's perfect mind, which is both the mother and the daughter, and the mother of her own father. Of course, Thunder is not a philosophical tractate, and its author wishes not only to teach the readers, but to extort, and convert them. Extort and convert them. She wants to extort them. Yeah, but extorting isn't necessarily bad, is it? If it's like I want to employ you, basically. Nevertheless, and despite its prophetic style, the tractate reflects the brand of Platonism known to us from Porphyry and Iamblichus. Sure. Basically, not relevant to the story. Okay. The tractate Thunder, Perfect Mind, is a sadistic Coptic translation of an otherwise lost Greek original. This translation could have been done at any time in the oh no, there's a whole nother page. They said they thought that there was only this little bit left. I made them think that. If they had the book, they were like, oh good, there's only like a little bit left. Oh fuck, there's a whole page. I like messing with people. Can you please go away? The translation could have been done at any time in the first half of the 4th century, since Codex 4 of the Nag Hammadi library, the only witness to the text, was very likely copied and bound in the mid-4th century. Thunder most likely comes from a milieu contracted by proselytizing, that was just me, I think, and marked by apocalypticism and an eschatological orientation. The epilogue of the tractate announces the fulfillment of the words and texts and promises to the listeners a place of rest where they will find life after their death. The style of the tractate is to be compared with what the pagan philosopher Celsius, is that how you'd say it? Terms most perfect, but Celsius, it came through, yeah. The most perfect type of prophecy among people of Phoenicia and Palestine. Just really quick. We're thinking that means mainframe. Purgatory. You guys think purgatory is a place to be punished. Basically, you're waiting. Well, you're not waiting, you're resting. How about that? That's what we're saying. But you could be just waiting. Like you're in a waiting room. That would suck. Could be. Yeah. Maybe we should sidebar that as to say purgatory could be, or it could be. Thanks. There are many, he says, who are nameless, who prophesy at the slightest excuse for some trivial cause, both inside and outside temples. And there are some who wander about, begging and roaming around cities and military camps, and they pretend to be moved, as if giving some oracular utterance. Yeah, auricular, like, I don't know, yeah, like something like utterance. It is an ordinary and common custom for each one to say, I am God, or a son of God, or a divine spirit, and I have come. Already the world is being destroyed, and you, O men, are to perish because of your iniquities. But I wish to save you, and you shall see me returning again with heavenly power. Blessed is he who has worshipped me now. Okay. yeah, no, I'm getting it. It has interesting Jesus vibes, right? In both solstice and thunder, we have a divine envoy who calls to conversion and claims to bring about salvation. This prophetic milieu of thunder must have been Jewish, or at least akin to Judaism. The peculiarity of the form and contents of thunder suggests, however, that this Jewish or Judaizing milieu must have been marginal. In sum, a milieu opened to the literary and doctrinal diversity exemplified by Codex 4, one of the most disparate of the Nag Hammadi collection, with its Hermetic, apocryphal, and Gnostic writings. 2. Interpreting Nag Hammadi, blah, 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 blah. So such. It would not be too daring an assumption to suppose that the Gnostics who gathered the Nag Hammadi tractates included thunder because they saw in its feminine speaker an evocation of Barbello, as she appears three forms in first thought, or 3 stellies of Seth. The Gnostic Barbello could easily be reinterpreted in sapential or philosophical as well as mythological terms. As to the place and date of consumption, that dude wanted to eat bodies, by the way. We found part of that out, part of it. Consume them, and then you can invoke their essence, their animation, trance spirit. You guys don't know what we're talking about, but we do. Headline news level. We are left with no positive indications. The mention of Egypt and thunder. Sometimes Angie will ask Brandon shit. She'll be like, "Hey Brandon, what do you think about this?" Just to see what the fuck weird off-ball shit he says. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes she's like, "You're fucking dumb as fuck." But why do you think she does that? Unbiased source, yeah? So she's like, "Hey, what do you think about this weird ass shit?" He'll say something like, "Probably freaking eating them so he could take over their power or something." She's like, "Bet they fucking are." You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Why that era, by the way, too? Rather, location, Philadelphia level. And why only certain families was he exhuming? And why this and why that? Yeah. As to the place and date of consumption, still, we are left with no positive indications. The mention of Egypt and thunder points toward an Egyptian milieu, perhaps Alexandria, but this remains hypothetical. The comparison with the excerpt from Celsius. Oh, they're thinking this is going to be boring because it's not the fun stuff that we read sometimes. I don't know, this is kind of fun to me, topic-wise. Cited above suggests that the Greek original of thunder might have been composed around the end of the 2nd century or the beginning of the 3rd. The philosophical background we have evoked hints in the same direction. All right, bibliography, no thanks. Moving on, thunder, the perfect line. Let me read these footnotes really quick to see if there's anything that I would want to stop for. Okay. Self-generated one. See, it was. I'll put a bookmark here, rather. Just in case, because the self-generated one. Okay, this is going to be longer than this unless we... Sometimes we like to work backwards. Let's work backwards. Say, look at the words of this one and all the texts that have been written. Pay attention, you listeners, and you also, you angels, and you have been sent, you who have been sent, and you spirits who have risen from the dead. I alone exist, and I have no one to judge me. For there are many sorts of seductive sins, and deeds without restraint, and disgraceful desires, and fleeting pleasures that people embrace, until they become sober, and rise up to their place of rest. And they will find me there, and they will live and not die again. I don't deny that this is true. You get what I mean by that? whoever is speaking this has a perspective of life that I feel is truth. And you might want to listen. That's what I think. I wouldn't discount it as being like, oh, well, of course they're going to say that this, that. For there are many sorts of pleasant people with numerous sins and deeds without restraint, disgraceful desires, and fleeting pleasures that hold them back. Basically, yeah, I want to read this again, because this is basically saying, where does it say, hear me, O listeners? More than that. Basically, you might want to fucking listen. You better listen. Look at the words of this one and all the texts that have been written. Basically, not just what I'm saying here, but everything that's, like, don't just say this is the be all end all. Look at all the things. And you can tell who's talking right now. Pay attention, you listeners, and you also, you angels, and you who have been sent, and you spirits who have risen from the dead. You know who the fuck is talking right now, right? I alone exist, and I have no one to judge me, for there are many sorts of seductive sins and deeds without restraint, and disgraceful desires, and fleeting pleasures that people embrace, until they become sober and rise up to their place of rest. They will find me there, and they will live and not die again, because sober of life, right? Like of the illusion. Wake up to the illusion. Wake me up inside. Become sober of the illusion. Rise up to their place of rest. Mainframe. Purg. Basically get sucked out of reincarnation. Yeah, it has to suck so bad you don't want to be here anymore, basical. Mainframe purg. It's two different ways to describe. I'm going to put waiting room for purg, though. We don't have that before. Rather, we used it interchangeable. But we want to say mainframe is also a waiting room of bardos, perhaps. Mainframe of storage / holding, as opposed to bardo sim. They will find me there and will live and not die again. Live as in outside the bardo. And not die again is no more reincarnation. What incarnation? C-A-R. I think they knew this shit back in the day. What I'm saying right now. That's all you need to know is this end, which is there's a whole bunch of shit that wants to keep you here. All right. Seductive sins, deeds without restraint, disgraceful desires, fleeting pleasures that people embrace. As it says, for there are many sorts of pleasant people with numerous sins. Where does it say pleasant people? I don't know. And deeds without restraint, disgraceful desires, and fleeting pleasures that hold them back from leaving Earth Sim light. Because it's all right here. Because you can do all this bullshit. Don't just take my word for it, comma. You can tell who is talking. I am OG, aka Alpha and Omega. AO. You're the ones who created this fucking simulation I'm trying to help you get out of. Okay? And I'm going to put that down here. You are the idiots who want to stay in well, no, we are going to stay and play. So that's why I'm like, we just don't want to go back to sleepies again, yeah? Want to stay in mediocre. Cam's here.